Good morning, gang. Good morning. Welcome to this week's altcoin update. First and foremost, big shout out to Prime XBT for sponsoring today's stream. With Prime, you can trade cryptocurrencies, forex, commodities, and stock indices all under one roof. And if you use our promo codes down in the description, you can get up to a $7,000 deposit bonus. And if you use the second code, you can also get up to 25% off trading fees. So yeah, if you want to learn more about them, the link's down in the description. So, first and foremost, everything discussed today is not financial advice. It's for educational purposes only, and this is just my view of the markets. Let's start where we left off, shall we? So last week we were looking at Happy and Doge. So first and foremost, obviously this is the Happy chart, exactly where we left off. What we were looking at last week, let's get the old screenshot up from last YouTube video, is we were saying that at the time it had not broken structure, and this was on the 4 hour. And if it does break structure, then I'd be looking back down to test these range highs / this golden pocket. And obviously, thanks to Bitcoin having a decent pullback through the early hours of this morning, we have broken structure now, based on the, in fact, let's zoom out to the 4 hour. And now, ultimately, I'll be looking back down at these range highs again, if price obviously doesn't just swing fail this last low and run on back up. So yeah, still patient for this. Obviously, if it does come back down to these old range highs and we'll get a decent reaction here, then, you know, there's potential for a long opportunity there. If we don't get any reaction here, you know, obviously that's the first option. If we get no reaction here and then we get acceptance back into this old range, then I'll be looking back down to these this value area high that's down here. So obviously that'll be two options there. Obviously, if you didn't take profits when we were talking about it last week, then yeah, give your head a shake. Why not? The other alt we were looking at last week was Doge. And Doge obviously had this very extended run, and it had hit back into this old range that we were talking about. It obviously had already hit this range when we were talking about it, and at the time we had a couple of options on the cards. The first option was to come back and backtest this value area low. If you got a reaction there, we were looking for a range between the value area low and this. And if you got no reaction here and it lost this zone, then I'm going to be looking for a retest back down of the range. And what happened was, if we zoom into a lower time frame like the 4 hour, price came back down. We got an initial bounce off the value area low, but then ultimately we dropped back down below it, came back up, swing fairly pattern on the H4, back down, retested it perfectly, and now we're heading lower. So once again, if price continues, it's moved down, then first and foremost I'm going to be looking at this old range that we're in. If price doesn't hold this old range, then ultimately I'm looking to get back into that range and continue trading this range. Obviously the alternative with this is this just ends up turning into just one big range here above this old range, but we'll wait and see. We'll play it level by level. Again, you know, is this just a bear market rally? Is it the start of a new bull market? Who knows? But it's just level to level. It's a level to level environment until you start breaking above this overall range up here. You break above that range, then, you know, you can start looking at higher price targets. But until then, you know, we've just got quite clear defined levels. Right, so based on our tweet this morning, a little bit late, the top picks for today were Near and KDA. I've not even looked at KDA before, so we'll start off with Near. And as we can see, obviously we've had the big blow off top, come back down just like the rest of the market, and now we're hovering around here. So what can we say is going to happen? Well, by the looks of it, it's still range bound, but let's throw on a few tools and let's get a clearer picture. So we're going to first and foremost do what we always do, throw on a volume profile. And we can see right here, we're hovering here. It's roughly within this gap within the volume. Obviously, we've got a high volume node right here, which is just above, where effectively where we're rejected off at the highs here, which is what price is this? The highs are 344, call it, for easy numbers. And obviously the lows now, we're in this this pocket within here. So that's first and foremost. Now let's zoom in and let's have a see what's going on more locally. Well, range bound like the rest of the market, let's be honest. Here's our low. And here's our high. Let's just extend them along. And then we can see, so what we can see here, and the beauty of this is the range high coincides with the overall value area high. And then the range low is not anywhere near the point of control or the value area low. So that's one thing to be aware of. Let's just have a quick look at this. Yeah, this works. So we're range bound. And once again, we're coming back down to test the range lows. Let's throw it on a volume profile within this range, shall we? So let's use where we officially came back into the range here to here. And look at this, this lines up nicely. So obviously we've got the point of control which lines up with the EQ, value area high just above that, and we can see we've got the respect and the value area high here, and then we've got the value area low here, which this morning we've just lost, but obviously I'm not saying this is a death sentence, I'm just saying we've just lost it right now. Is there any other tools we can throw on here? Out of interest, I'm just going to flip it into log scale, and let's get a fib retracement on the whole thing. From the absolute low to the absolute high, let's come back down, and look, we're around this 886. So we are, in fib terms, we're at the lowest it can comfortably go, but that doesn't mean to say it can't come any lower, because obviously we have got this point of control and this value area low down here. So we are on the 886 right now. So what could happen? Well, firstly, if you are bullish on this asset, and we are treating this as a range, then obviously we can say that we are at the range lows right now. So at the range lows, you're not looking for fresh shorts, you're potentially looking for longs. Now, if this was me trading this, what I can see here is obviously we've got liquidity below here right now. So we can see we've not taken out this low. Based on this candle right now, we've not taken out this low, so there's still stops sat down there, and there's still stops sat underneath this low here. So if you are bullish, what would be an interesting thing to see here will potentially be come back down, deviate, take the stops, get back up, reclaim, and there's a potential option for a long. Your alternative option would be see how this plays out now. Don't start getting FOMO, don't start trying to chase things. And if this does get back inside this value area, changes structure to the upside, then you potentially got a long. Now, first and foremost, I'll be looking at these stops to be run. Obviously, like any asset, once it takes the stops of something, I'll be looking for a pullback. So obviously with this one here, key stops on the daily, you've also got these stops here. And if you manage to get above all this, then first and foremost, I'll be targeting back to the point of control / EQ of the range. One thing to look for here is you could get a swing failure pattern of the EQ, come up to this value area high and back down, continue playing the range. Alternatively, if that doesn't happen and it just continues marching up, then I'll be targeting these highs and then ultimately these highs, the range highs overall. Now, one thing obviously that you could see from here is if obviously it does continue up, then you could be looking for a swing failure pattern of these highs here. Tag this value area, back down, and you've got a short entry. It's quite simple. It's quite simple. So that's just sideways range. I'm not uber bearish. I'm not uber bullish. You know, if you want to be uber bear, then you know if you do lose this range and you don't get a swing failure pattern back into it, then first and foremost I'll be targeting this consolidation here. So you've got this consolidation here, which lines up nicely with this high value node here, that you can see on the left hand side of my screen. If that doesn't hold any support, then I'm afraid to say, then I'll be looking down at this point of control, and lo and behold, that point of control lines up perfectly with the dollar. Nice round number. So obviously if price does end up coming back down there, then, well, yeah, do I need to explain that anymore? What happens if it runs? Well, if it runs from here, let's zoom in. if it does manage to break out of this range here, and this overall value range into this area, then I'd be looking to treat that as a separate range itself. So what we can do is put on a volume profile of this area. We can see that the value area low of this whole range lines up with the value area high of this range. So you've got good confluence there, and if we do manage to get acceptance back into here and continue an upward structure, then you'd be playing this range here. Now this is quite thin. This is quite thin. We can see it here on the volume profile. It's quite thin. We do have a couple of spikes here, but if price can get within to this, you know, I don't know what SMT traders call this, fair value gap, you know, whatever you want to call it, but if you can get back through there, then likely this is going to be quite thin up until potentially this point of control. Okay, obviously that's to the upside, but obviously it's a long way off, is that now? Because obviously we're talking quite. Let's get rid of those. Let's get rid of that. You know, it's still 100% just to the top of this range. You know, it's a good local range to be trading. You know, by local I mean swing trading range. So yeah, that's what I'd be looking for. Obviously, if it does deviate above these highs, I would be looking for a pullback initially. Whether that's a full-on pullback and reverse or just a pullback before a continuation, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But either way, it's just level to level. Yeah, that's about it. It's Near is a great range trading altcoin. In fact, if you scroll back quite a while, back to April on our Twitter feed, we actually called this top here because it was part of the range that we were looking at. And obviously anyone that were following along with us on Twitter, then you know you spotted that and you had a pretty damn good shot, if we do say so ourselves. Yeah, so that's near. You know, once we're coming towards range lows, it's not time to get bearish. You know, it's time to potentially look for longs / take profits on any shorts that you're in. Okay, if it does break down out of here with force, then obviously be looking around that $1 mark. Okay, next, KDA. When did this come around? March 22. I'm not sure if that's the inception or that's just the inception onto Binance, but yeah, it's a relatively young shitcoin. So first and foremost, like we always do, volume profile. Lo and behold, all the volume's down at the bottom. Kind of does look like accumulation. I can't deny that. But is it ready to lift off and make a run yet, or is it ready to make new lows? Well, let's obviously. So obviously, right now we've come back down. We've tested the value area low once again. Obviously, this low has been taken, and obviously it's been taken. It's been hovering below. But yeah, quite clearly this is, well, it's range bound with a bias to the downside. So if we actually use this as our range low for the time being, and we'll use the value area as our range high because we've got nice confluence here. Obviously we've got support, flipped into resistance, resistance, swing fairly pattern, took out these stops here, and then ultimately came back down, back into the EQ, hovered around the point of control, and now we're lingering down here at the range lows. So what would I want to see here? Well, it's difficult when you've got a chart that's got not much history like this. Obviously, if we did have history back here, then we could look at some lower levels. But for the time being, we're trading this blind. If you're bullish on this asset, potentially, now you could say that these were the liquidity grab to take this. Or you could say that these longs were a bit too early, and potentially you're looking to come down here, take out these stops, reclaim back in, and then you potentially got a long trigger. Now, is that a long trigger to, you know, go to the moon, to go to new all-time highs? No, because we're not in that environment yet. You know, it could do. I'm not saying it can't, but it's not how I trade. You know, and if I'm making these videos for you and you're here to watch these videos, then you're here to learn. So, you know, we're in a level to level environment. The rest of the market is in a level to level environment. Okay, so if this does happen, you do get the swing fairly pattern reclaim back in, then first and foremost, my target one would be this range point of control, which would nicely take out these highs. If it gets above that, then I'll be looking up at this EQ. Again, take out these highs. So if it manages to flip that, then you'll be looking to there. If it manages to continue up, then overall range highs there, which will be coming in roughly around 224, call it freezing numbers. Okay. So that's what we're looking for. Now, obviously, if this thing breaks down, then we've got no prior structure down here. So if this thing does break down, then, you know, how low can it go? Well, you know, effectively it can go all the way to 0 if it needs to be. Obviously, we've got no guidelines down here because we've got no prior history. Now, one thing that we do use in the group is we use a range fib tool. So it's something that we can throw on to see if we've got any more clarity. So if we use the current range as it is, and then we extend it to the range fib tool. Now this is something that'll be interesting to see. So obviously if it does break down from here, then we can use this range fib tool and say, well, first point of call could be down here, down roughly around $1, which is $1.03, call it. And obviously if it does go lower than that, then we could be looking down at about 81 cents. So obviously these are potentially great targets for a potential SFP. You know, if it does come down here, then back up, and as I say, reclaim. Obviously, you want to see strength on this. It's you know, so you're a very young asset, you know. And I'm not into fundamentals. I'm not going to tell you that the team's great or anything along those lines, because quite frankly, I don't know and I don't care. All I care about is what the charts show me. So it's something to be aware of. Targets to the downside if it does break down. But obviously, if this does hold, you know, and we continue this range in behaviour, with potentially an SFP at the low, then yeah, you've potentially got accumulation there. But again, as I say, you know, point of control, EQ, range high. If it does get above there, then, you know, we can take fib from this high here, which is coming in roughly around $8, which are going to fib retracement, and we'll be looking. Your key fibs to look out for is your 382, your golden pocket, and obviously if it gets above this high here, then yeah, you're looking at new all-time highs. But for the time being, that's what I'll be looking at. You know, if it does manage to get up to this 618, then that's definitely a take profit level on any longs that you're holding. Definitely a take profit level. If we drag this back a bit higher, then obviously you've also got this golden pocket here. So both be aware of. This one, I would say, has got more of a chance of being a stronger resistance, purely because this is obviously from the all-time high to the all-time low. But this one would be an intermediate level to be aware of as well. Okay, so fairly straightforward, level to level. I'll say if you are bullish, take out the lows, come back up. If you are bearish, then you know you'd be looking down at, as I say, around $1 mark maybe, and potentially down to 80 cents. But again, you know that. There's no other support structure down there, so there's not much technical analysis that we can do underneath these lows apart from an SFP. Okay, so that's it. That's what we're looking out for. If you guys obviously want to learn along with us, then first things first, you know, come check out our free Discord. We've got loads of stuff shared in our Discord. You know, previous trades that we've got obviously Bitcoin, altcoin charts going on left, right and centre, and then obviously we've also got the Copilot section. If you want to check out our Copilot section where I post a lot more ideas, then come check out our website, links down in the description, spitfiretraders.com. On here, if you click the Discord logo, you can get into our free Discord, and obviously if you want to take your learning to the next level and learn how we trade, then come check out our Copilot section, which this is where you get access to all our educational content. There's over 60 hours of content now. We're just about to start a new set of modules next week, and you get access to live streams weekly, and obviously you get access to my thoughts in real time. As an example, the short Bitcoin trade last night, we're posting the updates in the group around that. So yeah, that's it. Once again, thanks to PrimeXBT for sponsoring today's stream. I'll set links down in the description if you want to check them out. And until next time, guys, as you were.